The rain fell softly at first, creating a soothing rhythm that echoed across the vast expanse of the African savanna. The ground soaked up each drop, turning the once dusty earth into a glistening canvas. However, amidst this serene backdrop, a heart-wrenching sound pierced through the gentle patter of raindrops, a sound filled with sorrow and longing. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more. And tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. In a small clearing surrounded by tall grass swaying under the weight of the rain, a lion cub sat alone. The little creature, with its golden fur matted by raindrops, shivered violently as it cried out for comfort. Its piercing blue eyes were wide with fear and confusion, darting around to catch any sign of help. The cub's tiny body trembled not only from the chill of the rain, but also from the daunting reality of being lost without its mother. Each time a gust of wind blew through the trees, the cub flinched, instinctively crouching lower in the wet grass. It felt so small and helpless in a world that seemed enormous and intimidating. The calls for its mother rang out through the heavy air, filled with desperation and hope. Even as raindrops pooled around its paws, all the cub wanted was to feel warm and safe again. Birds that usually filled the air with cheerful songs had taken refuge in nearby trees, watching curiously but wisely, keeping their distance. It was quiet everywhere else. Only the sound of rainfall accompanied the cub's whimpers. Somewhere in the wild, predators might be lurking, and this realization heightened its fear. It longed for reassurance, for a gentle nudge or a familiar purr, assuring it that everything would be all right. Meanwhile, not far away, a group of wildlife photographers was on an expedition to capture the beauty of nature in its raw form. They had been tracking lions earlier in the day, hopeful to find them lounging lazily under acacia trees or playing with each other. As they drove along muddy paths created by recent rains, they suddenly stumbled upon an unexpected sight. Their cameras clicked away at stunning landscapes when one of them noticed movement in the distance, a flash of fur peeking from behind some foliage. Curiosity piqued. They slowed down their vehicle and leaned closer to get a better look. It wasn't just any lion. It was a tiny cub sitting alone in the pouring rain. Concern washed over them as they recognized the distress evident on its face. "Look, that little one seems to be lost," said one photographer excitedly, her voice laced with compassion. The others squinted through their lenses to see more clearly. It was heartbreaking to watch such vulnerability laid bare before them. The poor creature looking utterly forlorn as it cried out over and over again. "We can't just leave it here," one of them declared solemnly. Yet, another dared to voice the worry that hung heavily in the air. "But what if we get too close? The mother could be nearby." They all exchanged glances filled with worry. A mother lioness was fiercely protective of her young, and approaching too quickly might lead to danger for both humans and cub alike. They debated what course of action would bring about a positive change for the scared little lion without endangering themselves in return. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder rolled across the sky, startling everyone in their vehicle. Rain poured down more heavily now, as if nature itself understood how vital this moment had become. The team realized they couldn't turn away when there was still hope. Perhaps getting close enough could make all the difference for this little lion in need. As they prepared to step outside into the rain-drenched clearing, a mixture of determination and caution coursing through them. They were unaware that they weren't alone in witnessing this moment. Drawn by desperation, echoing through his world full of challenges and instincts born from years spent surviving on his own terms, another animal watched from nearby brush. This creature moved quietly through the shadows, hungry yet curious about what lay beyond his usual territory. He tilted his head toward where he could see the sobbing cub, an unexpected blend of emotions stirring within him as he took in this fragile sight surrounded by relentless rain and worry. Who could imagine what would unfold next? This solitary scene painted before all who watched would soon turn into an extraordinary moment none would forget. A tale about connection amid vulnerability that began here in this heartfelt scene, under dark clouds expressing both sorrow and hope alike. What would happen next may shock everyone observing these events unfold. The sound of rain drumming on the roof of their vehicle barely masked the conversations buzzing among the wildlife photographers. They were captivated by the allure of nature, but nothing could prepare them for what they were about to witness. As they peered through their camera lenses, an unexpected glimpse of movement caught one photographer's eye. A flash of golden fur glinting in the dim light. "Wait, did you see that?" she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the pattering rain. The others turned their attention to where she pointed, squinting through the thick sheets of water falling from the sky. There it was, a small lion cub, huddled in a clearing, surrounded by tall grass that bowed under the weight of raindrops. The sight was both beautiful and heartbreaking. With its tiny body trembling and its cries echoing through the damp air, it was evident that this cub was alone and frightened. The photographers exchanged worried glances. "We need to help it," one said firmly, his heart aching at the sight. "It looks terrified." "But we have to be careful," another warned. "What if its mother is nearby? We could be putting ourselves in danger." As they whispered among themselves, each individual felt a pull towards the little creature struggling against the harsh elements. The cub's cries grew stronger, a desperate call for help that resonated with their compassion. It seemed to echo not just in the air, but deep within their hearts as well. "This is our chance to do something good," said the first photographer again, her eyes wide with determination. "We can't just sit here and do nothing." As thunder rumbled overhead, punctuating her words, they collectively decided to take action. They carefully made their way out of the vehicle, mindful of every step they took on the slippery ground. The rain poured down harder now, soaking them instantly as they approached the frightened cub. With each step closer, their hearts raced, not only from excitement, but also from concern about what lay ahead. Would they trigger a protective response from a nearby lioness? Would they get too close too soon? Each question lingered in their minds as they neared the clearing where the tiny lion sat. The world around them faded into a blur. All that mattered was reaching out to this vulnerable creature who seemed utterly lost beneath the stormy sky. The cub's cries echoed louder with each approach, pulling them deeper into its plight. Suddenly, one photographer knelt in front of the shivering cub, his heart swelling with empathy as he uttered soft words meant to soothe. "Hey there, little buddy. It's okay," he said gently while extending a hand cautiously toward it. The cub blinked up at him with wide eyes, filled with fear and confusion, but also a flicker of hope. It sniffed at the air and instinctively flinched at his movements, but remained rooted in place, unable to find comfort in its wild surroundings. The others gathered around him, forming a protective circle as they quietly assessed how best to approach without frightening it further. "We need to make sure we don't startle it," one photographer reminded everyone softly. They began talking amongst themselves in hushed tones, discussing how they might coax it over or whether any food could help draw it near. Though what they had was hardly suitable for a wild animal like this lion cub. Instead, they focused on creating an aura of calmness around them. Just then, as if sensing their intentions, A sudden gust of wind blew through the clearing, sending droplets flying and rustling leaves around them. Startled by this change in atmosphere, the little cub let out another cry, a sound that tugged at their hearts even more deeply than before. "I can't believe this is happening," one murmured under her breath while still capturing photos on her camera. Despite her concern for the cub's safety, she felt compelled to document this poignant moment unfolding before her very eyes. As they stood there, rain soaking into their clothes and puddles forming around their feet, their collective resolve solidified. They would do everything in their power to help this little one find solace again. Then suddenly, before any more plans could be made, the soft rustling from behind them caught everyone's attention. A figure emerged from the dense brush nearby. Another animal was approaching. As it stepped into view through sheets of rain cascading down around them all like a curtain separating two worlds. What emerged next would shock everyone watching and alter the course of this unfolding story forever. The tension in the air was palpable as the wildlife photographers stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the tiny lion cub trembling in the rain. While its cries tugged at their hearts, a wave of uncertainty washed over them. They were faced with a dilemma. Should they intervene to help the cub or remain cautious of potential dangers lurking nearby? "I can't stand watching it suffer like this," whispered Sarah, one of the photographers, her voice barely audible over the roar of the rain. Her heart raced as she thought about how vulnerable the cub was, alone in such harsh weather. What if its mother doesn't come back? It needs us. "But what if we're putting ourselves in danger?" countered Mark, a more seasoned photographer who had encountered wild animals many times before. "Lionesses are incredibly protective of their young. If she sees us getting too close, she might charge at us." As they debated, the cub's cries grew louder and more desperate, echoing through the rain-soaked landscape. Each sound seemed to pierce through their arguments, reminding them of its plight. The decision before them felt monumental. Could they really leave it to fend for itself? "We have to think carefully," chimed in Lisa, another member of the group who had experience working with wildlife rescues. "Maybe we can create a safe distance and try to call it over without startling it. We don't want to make things worse." The group nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. They began discussing how best to approach while being mindful of their surroundings. Still, every time they glanced at the cub, curled up and shivering, their resolve was tested. "What if we just throw some food near it?" suggested Ben, who had always been quick to think outside the box. "It might be too frightened to come close right now, but if we leave something for it, maybe it will feel safer eventually." "Do we even have anything suitable?" Mark replied skeptically. "We're not exactly equipped for this kind of rescue mission." The photographers rummaged through their bags while keeping an eye on the cub. Sadly, they found only snacks meant for themselves. Nothing that would appeal to a wild animal who was used to hunting. "Okay, let's just focus on making our presence known gently," Sarah proposed once again, feeling an urgency surge inside her. "We need to show it that we mean no harm." Gathering their courage, they decided on a plan. One photographer would move cautiously toward the cub, while others kept watch from a safe distance. They would speak softly and move slowly to avoid startling it further. As Sarah stepped forward slowly, she felt her heart pounding in her chest like thunder above them. She kept her hands open and visible. After all, showing she had no intention of harming it was essential. The rain continued to pour down around her, soaking her clothes, but somehow grounding her resolve. "Hey there," she called gently as she moved closer, trying to keep her voice calm and inviting despite her own racing thoughts. "It's okay. You're safe with us." The cub paused at her voice, ears perked up slightly as it turned its head toward her direction. For a moment, Sarah felt hope flicker within her, a brief connection between human and animal amidst chaos. But just then, a crack of thunder boomed overhead. The loud sound startled both Sarah and the cub alike. The little lion flinched and dashed away deeper into the tall grass surrounding them. "Oh no!" Lisa gasped as they all instinctively took a step back. "We have to be careful. We can't frighten it away," Mark exclaimed urgently as he watched the cub retreat into hiding. Regrouping quickly amidst the pouring rain that blurred their vision and chilled their skin further, they felt a sense of urgency wash over them again. "What now?" Ben asked helplessly as he looked at his friends with concern etched across his face. "We can't give up," Sarah insisted resolutely. Determination fueled by compassion shone through in her eyes, despite setbacks unfolding around them. "Let's stay near and wait patiently. Maybe it will return when things settle down." As they huddled together under trees for cover, while still keeping an eye out for any signs of movement near where the cub had vanished moments ago. There was another rustling from behind them. They turned quickly, yet cautiously. Anticipation crackled in the air as something else emerged from the shadows that would change everything. The presence of yet another creature drawn into this dramatic scene unfolding before them all. As the photographers huddled together, peering into the thick curtain of rain and grass, they stayed focused on where the lion cub had disappeared. Their hearts raced with a mixture of concern and anticipation. They whispered among themselves, exchanging ideas on how best to create an environment that would encourage the lonely cub to return. Little did they know that another creature watched from the shaded underbrush, drawn by the commotion. Suddenly, amidst the sound of pouring rain and rustling leaves, a unique figure emerged from the tree line, a young jackal. Its thin, sleek frame was nearly hidden under a heavy layer of raindrops, but its keen eyes blinked with determination and curiosity. Unfazed by the thunder rumbling above, the jackal seemed intrigued by the commotion in the clearing. The Yadar photographers initially remained unaware of its presence. Their focus was still on the spot where the cub had last been seen. It wasn't until Sarah let out an excited gasp that everyone turned to see what had caught her attention. "Look," she whispered urgently, pointing toward the jackal that now stood hesitantly at the edge of the clearing. "What is it doing?" Ben asked quietly, watching as the jackal moved forward cautiously, its ears perked up high. The little animal appeared to be assessing the situation carefully, sniffing the air before taking a few tentative steps closer to where the cub had been. The tension in the air shifted as all eyes were now fixed on the unexpected visitor. "Is it looking for food?" Mark wondered aloud, his brows furrowed with curiosity. But there was more to this moment than just a hungry scavenger. An unspoken understanding seemed to ripple through the air. As the jackal ventured nearer, something remarkable happened. It paused, catching a faint sound, the muffled cries of the lion cub trapped somewhere nearby. This prompt made it act with surprising urgency. The jackal's instincts kicked in as if it felt compelled to assist. Could this little jackal actually help find the cub? Lisa mused, her heart pounding at this unusual twist in events. All their previous fears about potential danger faded for a moment, replaced by hope and awe at witnessing nature's unpredictability. The jackal continued its search, darting back and forth slightly, then suddenly turning its head toward one side of the clearing. With a swift motion, it leaped into a dense patch of grass, urging anyone watching to hold their breath. Would it find the lion cub? For moments that felt like hours, viewers could only watch, gripped by a mix of hope and anxiety. It seemed like an eternity until suddenly, there it was. The jackal re-emerged from the depths of wet grass, with its nose pressed close to something small and trembling. As it nudged gently against it, the shape revealed itself to be none other than the lion cub. "He found it!" Sarah exclaimed in disbelief, pressing her hands over her mouth to suppress a mix of joy and astonishment. The photographers observed in awe as the jackal used its muzzle to nudge the frightened baby lion playfully, encouraging it to respond despite its earlier fear. The little cub lifted its head tentatively, its blue eyes wide with surprise as it recognized this new companion. The jackal seemed non-threatening, moving with an almost comforting energy that began to draw the cub out of its shell of despair. "Look at them," Ben said softly. The unlikely bond between these two young creatures blossomed right before their eyes. They seemed connected by a shared need for companionship amidst adversity. This moment created ripples of emotion among the photographers. They had come to witness a heartwarming story in nature, but never expected this miracle to unfold so unexpectedly. As they captured every second through their lenses, they felt as if they were witnessing something sacred. An extraordinary interaction between species born from empathy instead of rivalry or instinct. The rain continued falling but felt lighter now, as if nature itself was breathing easier with these newfound connections forming in front of it. The photographers exchanged glances filled with wonder and gratitude for being present to witness yet another reminder of life's unpredictable beauty. As the two young animals playfully interacted, tumbling over one another in the wet grass, the photographers began wondering about potential next steps. Could they cautiously make their presence known? Would they be able to further support this bond forming between unlikely friends? Before diving into those thoughts too deeply, they stood mesmerized by this unexpected rescuer. A jackal whose gentle spirit helped soothe a frightened cub in a moment when hope seemed fleeting amid heavy rains and uncertainty. Little did they know that this enchanting scene would serve as both inspiration and motivation for them all, spurring them onward as they dared to dream about how each new connection could change lives forever. As the young jackal nudged the frightened lion cub, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The rain continued to pelt down around them, but for the first time in a while, it felt like the world had paused. All eyes were on the extraordinary moment unfolding in front of them. The cub, initially paralyzed by fear, seemed to find a glimmer of comfort in the jackal's gentle presence. The jackal approached cautiously, making soft, whimpering sounds that were oddly soothing. Its body language was non-threatening, with its tail held low and ears slightly back as it reached out to the cub. The murmurs of awe from the photographers echoed softly in the background as they captured every detail, their cameras clicking repeatedly, afraid to miss any part of this unexpected reunion. "Look at how it's trying to comfort him," Lisa whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. She couldn't help but feel a rush of warmth as she watched the jackal lean closer to the cub, gently nudging it with its nose again and again. It's like it knows exactly what the cub needs right now. The lion cub, initially startled and distressed, soon began to respond to the jackal's gentle nudging. With each encouraging nudge, the cub's hesitance faded incrementally as curiosity took over. It glanced up at the jackal, who was now sitting back on its haunches, its body relaxed. The moment was magical. Life returned to the tiny lion's eyes as it lifted its little head slowly from where it had buried it against the wet ground. For just a fleeting moment, everything seemed perfect. The rain continued pouring in torrents around them, but in this small clearing, there was a spark of hope ignited by an unconventional friendship. The cub finally took a few tentative steps toward the ewe jackal and sniffed the air curiously, driven by an innate desire for connection. With quick reflexes, the jackal playfully jumped back slightly before darting around in circles, inviting the cub to join in on the fun. This playful demeanor coaxed a tentative response from the cub. It took a wobbly step forward and then another, still unsure but clearly intrigued. The sight of this brave little lioness trying to muster up courage brought tears to Sarah's eyes. "Come on, little guy," Ben encouraged quietly, clapping his hands softly in excitement. His heart swelled with admiration for both animals, the vulnerable lion cub and the spirited jackal who had come to its rescue. The photographers observed closely as both young animals began to dance around each other, creating their own rhythm amidst the stormy backdrop. Their infectious energy spread throughout the group as more encouraging voicing came from behind camera lenses. Laughter bubbled up from Sarah and Lisa, while Mark couldn't help but join in with his appraising comments about how miraculously nature could work together during challenging moments. While this playful interaction unfolded under the rain-soaked sky, there was an unspoken understanding growing between the two animals. Perhaps neither one fully comprehended their shared struggle for survival. Yet, as they engaged in playfulness, they found solace in companionship during an otherwise perilous time. The photographs being taken captured not just images, but also stories of resilience and unexpected friendship. Through every joyful leap of the jackal and hesitant paw step of the cub, both animals expressed an untold narrative, a bond born out of empathy rather than instinct or rivalry. It shattered preconceived notions about competition among species and showcased something genuine and beautiful instead. Meanwhile, excitement coursed through the photographers as they began contemplating their next steps. They had witnessed such profound developments. Maybe they could introduce themselves, carefully and respectfully, to further support this bond blossoming in front of them. But just as those thoughts began forming, an unsettling rustle broke their focus, drawing everyone's attention away from the joyful scene. A commotion came from deeper within the brush nearby, the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps drawing nearer. A sense of trepidation flickered through their ranks as they exchanged worried glances. "What if it's the lioness?" Mark said apprehensively. "We have to be careful." Sure enough, a magnificent lioness emerged from the shadows. Her powerful presence cut through the rain with an air of authority. She surveyed her surroundings with keen eyes that locked onto her frightened cub and caught sight of the unexpected rescuer, the jackal who had come to aid her young one. A hushed silence fell over the photographers. They knew that this dramatic moment could shift everything. Would the lioness accept the jackal's assistance? Would she act protectively as any mother would? Everyone held their breath as they awaited her next move. A moment that would shape not just this story, but potentially rescue two fates united under relentless weather and extraordinary circumstances. As the lioness appeared from the shadows, a collective gasp escaped from the photographers. They had captured heartwarming moments of friendship between the cub and the jackal. But now, they stood at the precipice of uncertainty. The presence of the mother lion raised a flood of emotions that mingled excitement with anxiety. "Will she accept the jackal?" Lisa whispered, her eyes wide, the rain cascading down her face like tears of apprehension. She could hardly breathe, caught between capturing the moment and worrying for both animals involved in this unexpected drama. Mark stood rigid, his camera raised but forgotten in his grasp. The power emanating from the lioness was palpable. She moved gracefully, yet assertively, her amber eyes sharp as they scanned the scene. "This is it," he finally breathed out, feeling a mix of fear and awe for the magnificent creature standing before them. "She looks fierce," Ben murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. He instinctively took a small step back, unsure of what might unfold next. "I just hope she isn't angry with the jackal." His voice reflected the thoughts swirling in everyone's minds. A mix of worry and uncertainty filled the atmosphere. The lioness approached slowly, but seemed to pause frequently, intelligence glimmering in her gaze as she observed both the cub and its new companion. The photographers felt their hearts race as they steadied their breathing, knowing they were witnessing an unparalleled moment in nature. Would she spring into action? Or would she allow this unusual bond to flourish? Sarah kept her focus trained on the lioness, adjusting her camera settings with trembling fingers. "If only we could communicate with them," she thought aloud. "If she only knew that Jackal is trying to help. They might be able to find strength together." In that tense moment, something unexpected happened. The cub, encouraged by the sincerity of its newfound companion, took a few tentative steps forward. It let out a soft call, a mere whimper filled with both vulnerability and trust. To everyone's astonishment, instead of exhibiting hostility, the lioness let out a low rumble. Not a growl, but almost like a purring sound of caution. "Listen, she's not attacking," Ben exclaimed in delight, realizing this was an invitation rather than a threat. Eagerly, he raised his camera once more, snapping photos furiously as evidence of this remarkable interaction. The other photographers joined him in excitement. Each felt an unspoken promise that they were about to capture history on their cameras. The duo of wildlife partners, the gentle cub and resilient jackal, had come together against all odds. But now they were on the brink of an even greater challenge, facing the lioness, protecting her young. Mark couldn't help but marvel at what they were witnessing. He had spent years documenting animal behavior, yet had never seen such raw emotion displayed between species before. "This could change everything we think we know about them," he said quietly, filled with wonder. As if answering him, the jackal pranced playfully around the lioness's feet, drawing her attention even further away from its previous intent to rescue. The tone shifting from one of caution to playful investigation. The jackal yipped softly as it encouraged the cub forward again, with every soft paw step. From their vantage point, the photographers began to see what seemed impossible. A peaceful coexistence formed right before their eyes. They could hardly believe that the wild instincts they often documented in nature could shift like this, showing tenderness and compassion rather than aggression. The scene turned even more heartwarming when the lioness lowered her head slightly to meet the level of her cub's gaze. With an air of maternal tenderness mixed with curiosity toward the jackal, she seemed to grant her approval without losing her protective demeanor. "There's hope," Sarah whispered breathlessly, a smile forming on her lips as she witnessed echoes of understanding unfold in front of them all. "They're forming a family different from what we expect." With each passing second, warmth spread among the group of photographers who had braved harsh weather just to witness nature spinning stories like threads weaving through time. Lessons of connection instead of conflict unfolded before them. Just when it seemed like love might overshadow danger completely, another rustling sound broke through their momentary peace. It echoed louder this time, as if announcing an encore. The group instinctively turned to watch as it approached through the foliage. What would come next? Would this truly solidify an extraordinary tale of compassion shared between these animals? As every eye followed closely with bated breath on what revealed itself next, a sense of camaraderie blossomed amongst those snap-happy photographers. They were unified by hope and curiosity. Another pivotal moment awaited in this ever-unfolding story of resilience amidst relentless rain. The atmosphere in the clearing shifted once more as the lioness watched her cub venture closer to the jackal. There was a stillness in the air. A sense of anticipation hung heavy as everyone tuned in to witness the evolving bond between the two young animals. It was a moment that redefined understanding, blurring the traditional lines between predator and prey. The cub, emboldened by its mother's tolerance, took gentle, tentative steps toward the jackal. With each slow pace, the curiosity in its wide blue eyes sparkled through its previous fear. The little lion approached with a mixture of excitement and caution, nose twitching as it caught the scent of its new companion. The rain continued to fall around them, creating a soft backdrop for this beautiful encounter unfolding before captivated onlookers. The jackal, sensing the cub's trepidation, remained relaxed and inviting, displaying an aura of calm that seemed to flow naturally from its playful spirit. It bounced lightly on its paws, encouraging the cub to engage in play. The sharp contrast of their dynamic, a bold lion cub and spirited jackal, was mesmerizing. Here lay a friendship blooming amidst adversity, showing that compassion could thrive even in the wild. With an eager yip, the jackal darted to one side and then back again, inviting the cub into a game of chase that felt both instinctive and joyful. For the first time since being separated from its mother, the cub let out a playful growl, a sound full of hope and enjoyment, and bounded after the jackal with newfound energy. It was as if all anxiety had been washed away by the rain, replaced by innocent excitement. The bond between them deepened with each passing moment. Their interactions went beyond mere curiosity into genuine camaraderie. They rolled together in patches of grass where droplets splashed up like tiny diamonds under their playful kicks. The photographers couldn't contain their joy. Laughter escaped their lips, along with awed gasps as they clicked away at every adorable moment. A testament to resilience and companionship against life's harsh realities. This unlikely duo not only entertained, but taught valuable lessons about acceptance and connection. "Look how that jackal is encouraging him," Lisa said softly, her eyes shining as she watched how effortlessly they danced around each other. "It's like they understand something we don't." Mark nodded thoughtfully, his camera capturing every heartbeat of this enchanting scene. "It's beautiful," he agreed. "They are both so young, yet instinctively know how to comfort one another." Yet amid this blossoming friendship lay an awareness that lingered. The world of wilderness is not without stakes or risks. As captured as they were by what unfolded before them, even within this enchanting display lurked a glimmer of concern. Would this bond withstand any predatory forces lurking nearby? Just then, a loud rustling came from nearby brush again, the sound breaking sharply through their joyful revelry like thunderclaps on a sunny day. The lioness raised her head instantaneously. All activity froze as she scanned their surroundings sharply with those same amber eyes, now wide and alert. "Is something else coming?" Ben whispered apprehensively as he leaned forward eagerly while still holding his breath. Every observer felt tension weave through their collective anticipation. But instead of turning hostile or protective, as they had feared earlier, the lioness maintained her composed demeanor without seeming alarmed. Perhaps she felt safe with her young ones occupied or simply didn't perceive any immediate threat near them, as silence returned momentarily and curiosity battled with caution among photographers who turned their attention back to see what emerged next. The sight awaiting them was astonishing. Emerging cautiously from behind thick foliage was another young creature. It was an older jackal. Its fur glistened under rainfall, while it surveyed both animals playing energetically together in a clearing woven with nature's vibrant colors amidst gloomy skies. "Oh, wow," Sarah exclaimed quietly. Emotions weighed heavily behind her words. Wonder mixed with sheer delight at watching nature's dynamics unfold even further. The new jackal stood observing intently for moments during initial interaction before trotting up closer. It seemed curious, but also cautious, not unlike many older siblings might feel regarding their younger kin enjoying new friends without realizing potential risks involved. Much to everyone's surprise, the older jackal sniffed at both cub and younger companion before playfully leaping into action. It joined them effortlessly, tumbling alongside its younger counterpart while encouraging additional engagement within this joyous dance forming before captivated eyes once more. "What a beautiful reunion!" Mark exclaimed excitedly as he continued documenting this unique gathering. The innocence bouncing forth wrapped lovingly under rain-soaked skies, now alive with laughter reflected within wildlife's purest forms. Amidst scattered raindrops, dancing around fluffy paws raised high in hoops created by playful leaps. Connections unfurled throughout every moment, shared amongst these wonderful creatures, bonded by instincts unseen, yet felt deeply across varying species. The photographers were reminded there existed so much magic within nature, hidden just beneath surface levels. They would forever cherish every snapshot captured representing harmony, manifested even amidst unpredictable storms beyond those sprawling savannas. As the playful bonding between the cub and the jackals unfolded in the rain-soaked clearing, something remarkable began to transpire within the little lion. The fearful, shivering cub that had once cried out for its mother was transforming right before the photographer's eyes. Each gentle nudge from the jackal and every playful interaction began to melt away the layers of anxiety that had surrounded the cub since it had become lost. The first signs of this transformation were subtle. A flicker of curiosity replaced the fear that had held the cub captive. As it engaged with the older jackal, which had joined their lively antics, the cub's demeanor shifted from timid to enthusiastic. With every bound and playful roll in the grass, it began to embrace its natural instincts, reconnecting with a sense of freedom that had been missing during its time alone. Sarah aimed her camera at the scene, capturing each precious moment. "Look at how he's starting to play like a normal cub," she whispered in awe, her heart swelling with pride for the young animal. "He's finding joy again." Indeed, with each passing moment, the lion cub glowed with newfound energy. Its blue eyes sparkled as it chased after the jackals, moving with a grace and confidence that had seemed unimaginable just hours before. No longer was this tiny creature merely a victim of circumstance. It was embracing its identity as a lion, sensing the freedom of its surroundings amidst the warmth of friendship. The rain transformed from a dreary backdrop into a source of vitality, adding an enchanting shimmer to their playful escapade. Drops scattered like tiny jewels, creating a mesmerizing display as they leaped joyfully in and out of puddles. With every playful growl and leap into the air, the cub seemed to shed its former self, evolving into a more vibrant and fearless individual. Meanwhile, the photographers couldn't help but feel their spirits lift alongside the cub's transformation. Laughter erupted from them as they cheered on this evolving friendship. Each click of their cameras capturing not just images, but stories filled with resilience and newfound hope. "This is what nature is all about," Mark exclaimed. "It's incredible to witness such a pure expression of life." The jackals played an invaluable role in this transformation, acting as both companions and teachers. The younger jackal's energetic leaps encouraged the cub to push its boundaries farther than it ever dared before. The gentle nudges from the older jackal provided reassurance, reminding it that safety could exist even in the wilds. As they tumbled together in the grass, there was a sense of harmony among them, an understanding that went beyond just survival instincts. The cub began to mimic the jackal's playful tactics, learning how to dart and weave through tall blades of grass with newfound agility. Each interaction reinforced its confidence as it learned to assert itself within this dynamic trio. Yet amidst this joyful evolution, moments of reflection flickered across the photographers' faces. They were acutely aware that while the playfulness continued to thrive before them, life in nature was often unpredictable, filled with both wonder and harsh realities. "I hope nothing disrupts this," Lisa murmured softly, her heart aching at the thought of potential dangers that could threaten their innocent joy. Just then, as if on cue, a loud rustling sound echoed from deeper within the brush nearby. A reminder that while friendships blossomed under cover of rain-soaked skies, threats could lurk in shadows cast by towering trees. The lioness remained close, her watchful gaze never straying far from her cub. She understood instinctively that these moments served as both lessons and connections, shaped not just by trials, but through unexpected alliances. As if sensing her presence, the cub paused mid-play and glanced back at its mother. The lioness met its gaze with an expression that radiated reassurance, the silent bond between them as steady as ever, despite challenges faced. The cub felt a surge of confidence. It knew it was not alone in this moment of transformation. With renewed vigor, it bounded back toward the playful jackals, letting out another excited growl that echoed through the rain-soaked savanna. The photographers watched in awe, knowing they were documenting not only a young lion's transformation, but also the magic of companionship formed in unexpected ways. As laughter danced upon raindrops and joyful barks filled the air, hope blossomed anew. Within this beautiful chaos lay lessons about resilience woven into moments shared between creatures who learned to embrace their unique connections despite life's unpredictable currents. The lesson resonated deeply within every observer. Nature could nurture bonds beyond those expected, enabling transformations that allowed even the most vulnerable among them to thrive amidst adversity. As the heartwarming events unfolded in the rain-soaked savanna, the impact of this extraordinary rescue began to ripple beyond the immediate scene. The photographers, deeply moved by what they had witnessed, felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their cameras captured not only images, but also stories that could inspire a shift in wildlife awareness and conservation efforts. "People need to see this," Mark declared, his voice filled with determination as he glanced around at his fellow photographers. "This isn't just about capturing beautiful images. It's about sharing a message of compassion and coexistence." His words resonated throughout the group, igniting a desire to convey the profound bond formed between the lion cub and the jackals. They understood that moments like these could influence public perception of wildlife interactions, demonstrating that kindness can flourish even among species traditionally viewed as adversaries. Sarah nodded appreciatively, her heart swelling with pride for both the animals and her companions. "We're documenting something incredible here," she said. "If we can showcase how these animals support each other, perhaps it will encourage people to think differently about wildlife and their interactions." With renewed energy, they discussed their plans to share their findings with a broader audience. They envisioned articles detailing not just the bond between the cub and jackals, but also the importance of protecting these habitats where such connections were possible. Each story they planned would emphasize how vital it was to respect and safeguard nature, fostering understanding rather than fear. As they worked together, editing photographs and brainstorming ideas for captions that conveyed their messages effectively, their excitement grew. They wanted to ensure that viewers saw not just playful antics, but also the deeper significance behind those moments. Resilience through friendship and the strength found in unexpected alliances. Meanwhile, social media platforms buzzed with anticipation from followers eager to see updates on the cub's journey. The footage they shared highlighted not only adorable interactions, but also included education, important facts about lions' natural behavior, their societal structures within prides, and how interspecies relationships could aid survival. "Let's utilize this moment to bring awareness," Lisa suggested enthusiastically, while scrolling through comments from viewers already touched by what they had posted. "We can create awareness campaigns that educate people about wildlife conservation efforts. Who knows how many lives we could change just by presenting this story." Their plans began to take shape as they crafted a narrative aimed at both children and adults alike. Something accessible yet profound enough to encourage empathy toward wild animals and their struggles in an ever-changing world. They believed it was crucial to remind everyone that nature thrived on connections. Love did not have boundaries defined strictly by species. As followers engaged with their posts, sharing them far beyond what they had envisioned, an unexpected movement started gaining momentum. People began sharing personal stories of compassion between animals from different backgrounds or species. Testimonies from owners whose pets formed unlikely friendships, or examples seen in wildlife documentaries emphasizing companionship over competition. "This has struck a chord with so many people," Ben exclaimed during one meeting as he checked notifications on his phone. "It seems everyone is eager for more positive stories. We should capitalize on this energy." The journalists' initiative grew into something much larger than anticipated. Schools expressed interest in featuring these narratives during educational presentations, while families sought ways to get involved in local conservation efforts, sparked by newfound inspiration drawn from camaraderie witnessed through social media platforms. But as public interest surged toward this remarkable friendship, blossoming amidst adversity on those rainy savanna days, the photographers remained cognizant that real change often involved action beyond storytelling alone. "We can't just stop here," Sarah reminded them as conversations veered toward future projects. "Let's partner with conservation organizations who can help foster actual changes out in these wilds. We can advocate for habitat protection initiatives or support shelters working to rescue orphaned wildlife." Their mission expanded beyond framing perfect shots. They sought tangible outcomes resulting from emotion stirred within those captivated by their documentation of life's beautiful surprises unfolding among lions and jackals alike. United by purpose and fueled by hope for preserving ecosystems often threatened by human encroachment, the team felt emboldened as ambassadors advocating change based on compassionate bonds formed unexpectedly throughout nature's wondrous tapestry. As awareness blossomed around them along rain-drenched trails leading deep into savannas, where stories waited patiently. Every click of their cameras shone brightly against darkening skies, unleashed not just snapshots, but possibilities boundless, like feathers ruffled lightly beneath uplifting winds, guiding souls forward. Reminding every observer how compassion could unravel walls separating hearts while igniting fires within minds determined enough to drive meaningful conversations capable of shaping futures yet unseen. As the photographers reflected on the extraordinary events they had witnessed, it became clear that this was more than just a story about a lost lion cub and its rescue. It was a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of life in the wild. Each moment spent observing the gentle bond between the increasingly confident cub and its newfound companions, the jackals, had woven a narrative rich with lessons about compassion, resilience, and understanding. Standing amidst the lush greenery, rain-drenched yet invigorated by hope, the group realized that their experience had given them a chance to impact wildlife awareness significantly. They understood that every captured image unveiled a larger truth about coexistence and added depth to their mission. We didn't just witness a rescue. We saw relationships formed against all odds, said Mark thoughtfully, reflecting as he reviewed his photos. This reminds us that empathy can flourish anywhere, regardless of differences. Lisa nodded in agreement, gazing out over the vast savanna where these creatures roamed freely. It's vital for us to convey this message far and wide, she emphasized, her passion igniting a fervor within the group. By sharing this story about friendship between species, we can help change perceptions about wildlife interactions, illustrating that cooperation benefits everyone involved. Their conversations turned toward how best to share their experiences and grow the movement already taking root on social media. The excitement they generated extended beyond themselves. It touched anyone who followed the heartwarming updates. People shared their personal stories of cross-species friendships and encouraged others to appreciate differences among animal communities. What initially began as simply documenting wildlife had blossomed into something transformative, an opportunity to spark dialogues about compassion across broad cultural lines. As they prepared to present their work alongside compelling educational narratives, they did not shy away from confronting tough truths present in nature. They noted that while such bonds could lead to hope and fun interactions depicted in beloved photographs, many animals also faced perilous conditions throughout their lives. From habitat loss to increasing human encroachment into wilderness areas. It was crucial to strike this balance between joy and realism within their storytelling. Only then could true conservation efforts take flight. Traveling home after completing their project, reflections filled each weary but exhilarated mind with optimism for advocacy born from love shown across differing species. Every click of their camera had recorded more than just acts of friendship. It embodied mysteries waiting to be unraveled regarding life within our ecosystems. Back at the office, they held discussions on establishing partnerships with environmental organizations dedicated to protecting wildlife habitats and educating future generations through community outreach initiatives. The enthusiasm surrounding presentations and workshops sparked dreams that would encourage young minds eager to learn more from stories like that, of the cub who found friends amidst adversity. The upcoming brainstorm sessions brimmed with ideas for engaging formats. Workshops introducing kids, not merely teaching facts, but fostering compassion and empathy for every creature that shared this planet. The importance of building bridges between humans and wildlife echoed throughout each proposal put forth. As days unfolded into weeks since first witnessing captivating events take place in those rain-soaked fields, ripples from initial presentations began encouraging real tangible actions among audiences reached through various means, whether in classrooms or community gatherings. Comments reflected heartfelt responses produced following discussions spurred by understanding. Doubt dissolved as curiosity resurfaced among individuals seeking ways to contribute meaningfully toward preserving habitats, laying beneath soaring skies, peppered with hues often seen glistening during sunsets trapped beyond view. When those who sought change rejoined these communities, inspired by passionate footsteps drawn forth, they sowed hope within once threatened ecosystems, where laughter echoed fondly amongst rustling grasses, enveloped by movements darting playfully from playful wild hearts. Gatherings entwined themselves around precious bonds, while shared missions transformed lives, landscape after landscape. Each future generation inspired by this journey through unexpected connections leading away from fear toward love, built organically over time. A reminder for all striving toward shared understanding, capable of fostering harmony resonating amid nature's symphony, echoing endlessly across cherished grounds, reminding us empowerment resides wherever friendships take root, even under stormy rains.